Hey everyone, so this is my next up director's list of ranking from worst to best. This time it's, as you might have guessed by clicking on the video, Joe Wright. Now Joe Wright's done 7 films, and I figured I would rank them from worst to best, and of course this is all his theatrical films, none of his shows or miniseries and whatnot, or shorts, none of that. It's not my style. So number 7 will obviously be his worst, number 1 will be his best, and again, this is in my opinion. Also, check out my other ranking videos of directors I've done, like David Lynch, David Fincher, Nolan, Wes Anderson. But anyways, enough exposition, let's get into it. So, my number 7 is Pan. Now, this movie got panned when it came out. It was looked at as whitewashed and just silly, over the top, and just very corny. And I agree with those assessments. I think it's a misfire because I think that Joe Wright, he wanted to try something different, and I think he did, but I just think that it was different in all the wrong ways. And if you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about because it just doesn't really flow well. You know, there are a lot of silly moments, a lot of moments that are just kind of cringeworthy. And it's a shame, too, because given the studio and, again, the director, it was kind of like, oh, man. But, yeah, definitely his weakest film, without a doubt. And his next film, number 6, that would be The Soloist, which is actually his last film that I saw to do this video. And The Soloist, I like the fact that Robert Downey Jr. and Jamie Foxx, 2 big actors, were doing like a smaller movie and with a spotlight on essentially homeless people. And I think it's interesting because I just feel like that's not really something that gets talked about that much, especially in film and TV shows. But this movie was talked about. It was based on a true story. And whilst I don't think the movie is perfect, in fact, I think it's very flawed, just the fact that a film had the balls to actually focus on this kind of topic, I liked. But again, there are a lot of flaws. There are a lot of just small-y things or just cliche things that go on. But the topic itself is interesting. The performances are admirable. And the cinematography is also well done for the most part. And that's why it's number 6 and not higher. So, my number 5... Man, number 5, I only saw once, and it was in theaters, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I think it's just alright, and that's Darkest Hour. Yeah, Darkest Hour, I really wasn't the biggest fan of. I thought that it was too self-important. I'm all about based on true story movies. I really am. I like every genre, but based on true stories, I feel like it's always interesting when you have a true-life character and you make it interesting. But Darkest Hour, I felt like wasn't able to overcome that. Like, I was never really enthralled with the film. In fact, as the film progressed, I became less and less interested, and I wanted to watch the companion piece, Dunkirk, with this movie, because Dunkirk would have washed away the bad taste. But the movie, it's got a good production design. Like, it looks nice. I wasn't the biggest fan of the cinematography. The acting is good for the most part. Gary Oldman, obviously, is good in the movie. Not great, if you ask me, but he's still good. And, yeah, solid score, but... Again, not the biggest fan, but I do think it has its share of problematic stuff that mostly stems from the dullness of the film. But, just my personal opinion. Number 4 is where we start coming to the solid to good stuff. Now, number 4 is Anna Karenina, which has been done so many times. And honestly, this is the only adaptation I've seen. And I thought it was solid. I didn't love it, but I really respected what Joe Wright was doing with the movie and his ambition with the filmmaking. I thought it was really admirable. Keira Knightley's in it. She's good, per usual. It's an enjoyable movie. It's not a movie I've rewatched multiple times. I've only seen once. But it's a movie that if someone's like, oh yeah, I really like it, I can understand. Like, there is a lot to admire with the movie. But there was just some stuff that kind of dampened the viewing experience for me and maybe not really want to like give it a second or third viewing. But who knows, maybe in the future I will. But for now, I'm just kind of like, I'm good for now. But it was still solid stuff. Next up, number 3. This is a movie that a lot of people would actually put as their number 1. I think it's solid. I think it's a good companion piece, like Sense and Sensibility, and that's Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice is my number 3, and Keira Knightley, again, she is good in it. The cast is universally great. The messages, the romance, they're interesting. But there's also a lot of stuff that I felt like, again, it comes down to pacing. Like, Joe Wright's movies, a lot of them, pacing is an issue for me as well as just length. Like, they feel longer than they actually are. And it just kind of comes down to the pacing. And Pride and Prejudice, it comes down to that as well. Like, I think it's a solid movie. I think the filmmaking is really good. And I've only seen it once, but I'm sure I'll see it multiple times because my girlfriend Loves the movie. It's one of her all-time favorites, and actually, I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen it more, considering how long we've been dating. But I'll probably be seeing it even more times than once. So, but for now, I think it's just solid. I don't think it's his best film, but I do admire what it was doing, and I can see a lot of people liking it and even loving it as their favorite Joe Wright movie. But for me, there were two other choices that were better. Number two, this is the movie that actually got me into reviewing movies. This is the movie that made me look to be focused on film criticism. This is the movie that affected me so much because I hated it the first time I saw it. I absolutely hated it because of how different it was, how strange and weird it was. And now I absolutely really dig this movie. And that is number two, which is Hanna. That's right, I own Hanna on Blu-ray. And this is a movie that if you show it to the average person, they're not going to like it because it was advertised as an action film. And yes, there are some action sequences, but it's very artsy from the score to the way it's shot to the symbolism to the bookend ending. There's just a lot of artsy stuff. Even the fight scenes are artsy. And again, I didn't like this the first time. I really didn't. I didn't like how it was handled. But then when I rewatched it, because again, this was the first movie. This was the movie I saw where I was like, I want to start reviewing movies. I started reviewing movies, and then a couple years after, I decided to rewatch it. I was like, wow. It really does show, honestly, I'm just throwing this out there. It really does show that you watch enough movies, you start to kind of gain your own voice. And like, I'm glad that I gained my voice and figured out, hey, you were a schmuck for not liking this movie the first time. So, absolutely love Hanna now. Number one, though. Number one, I don't own a Blu-ray yet just because my entire collection's pretty much Blu-ray now, Blu-ray and 4K. This was one movie I just had never converted to Blu-ray, and I ended up selling the DVD. So it's number one. It's Atonement. Atonement I will be trying to get on Blu-ray soon, but this was a movie that I absolutely adored. Joe Wright has a tendency of doing long takes, which I respect a lot. But in Atonement, he really outdoes himself. Like the beach scene alone, incredible one take. The acting's top notch. The twist ending was really good. The score out sounds like a typewriter. The pacing, just everything about it really works. And I would highly recommend you check Atonement, especially if you like romances or war. There's just a lot to like about and appreciate with this film, and I would highly recommend it. Now, I always like to do at the end of these ranking lists, and keep in mind, I know Joe Wright's going to be doing more movies, which is great. But for now, this is my ranking of his movies. Joe Wright is a director. Do I like him? He's a director I think is solid. I think he's hit or miss for me, as you can tell based on the list. Half of his movies I think are just to bad, and then there are other ones where I think they're solid to good. I think he's a director that's hit or miss, but I do respect his style. Like he's very heavy on like period pieces and like focusing on costume designs. He has unique scores, especially with Hanna and Atonement. He's got a lot of wit with cinematography and how to handle the shots. It's all really good composition. And I think he always knows how to choose his cast. Like I think he's a director that I wish I loved. I don't. But like when he hits, it's really good filmmaking. When he doesn't, it's like, oh, I can admire what you're doing, but I still don't like this. But yeah, I think he's a solid director. Not one of my favorites, but he's a solid director. Like if I'm watching a trailer and I see from the director of Atonement, Joe Wright, I'll probably watch the movie because I like Joe Wright. I think he's solid. And yeah, let me know your thoughts though, guys, on Joe Wright. Where do you rank his movies from 1 to 7, if you've seen all of them, of course? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, look at the subscription, notification bell, and I'll catch you guys later.